Hello, and welcome to our group discussion. Today, we are going to be reviewing the book The Outsiders, and we've created a series of different questions to cover it. Now, the prompt we gave ourselves consisted of 4 questions, but we'll probably be cutting out one of those due to time. We have 2 comprehension questions to show our understanding of character and plot. We have 1 author's craft question to show off how author's craft affects the book. And we have a theme question to more tie into author's craft and plot to connect the two. Now we're just going to be going around in a basic circle. Everyone is going to ask their question, and they're going to answer their own question, and then we're going to open up to a full discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to get started with author's craft and the idea of the author using different ideas in their book to enhance it. And so the first thing that I looked at was symbolism in the book The Outsiders. And so one major symbol in The Outsiders was the book Gone with the Wind, which was a best-selling Civil War drama written by Margaret Mitchell in 1939. So it makes countless appearances throughout the novel, especially during correspondence between Pony Boy and Johnny. And so my question is, what symbolism do you think that a novel about the Civil War holds in The Outsiders? How does this pertain to the conflict between the Greasers and the Socs? So my personal opinion on this is there's a really close symmetry and resemblance between the conflict that's happening within their town and the greater outlook of the American Civil War. So both are of an area that's divided, both based on ideas, classes, income, things like that. And so the Civil War is really a great way to connect real history to the events of this novel.
I think it's very interesting how you use the Civil War to show it, because in the Civil War, both sides were U.S. citizens. And the Socs and Greasers were more or less the same on the inside. Like when Cherry and Pony Boy were looking at the sunset, there was a quote, I remember something about, "We're not so different."
Yeah, I think I had it. So it seemed funny to me that the sunset she saw from her patio and the one that I saw from the back steps were the same one. Maybe the two different worlds we lived in weren't so different. We saw the same sunset.
Exactly, with that conflict, it's the exact same world with 2 different perspectives on life.
Exactly, yes.
Does anyone care to see it on that?
I agree. So in both the Civil War and in the battle between the Greasers and Socs, the Civil War, they're obviously all from America. And like you guys said, the Greasers and Socs, they're the same on the inside. And you can even see this because they live in the same city, they go to the same school, and they're connected. There is lots of fights, but in the end, they're the same people.
So hopefully sometime they will be able to unite just like the nation was able to.
Well, does the Civil War connect, with the Civil War they were fighting for slavery? Is there anything that they're fighting for in The Outsiders? The same sort of way?
It seems to me that what they're fighting for is their status in society, but the real parallel is just the rift within a particular civilization or society.
Like within one country, there's a war between 2 factions, and within one city, there's a war between 2 factions. It's the main part.
There's also a large connection between the Outsiders and the Civil War, and how in the Outsiders, there's a large thing about how they're reading the book, Gone with the Wind, and that book, Gone with the Wind, it's about the Civil War, right? And so, and how they take different quotes from the book, and how they try to express their innocence through it. So there's a connection there.
Let's move on to our next question. How about Alex there?
Okay. So, I'll go with, why is honor so important to humans, and how does a person's honor and actions define them?
How would you connect that to the book? What did you mean?
And so, for me, I thought the entire story was about how the Socs and the Greasers were fighting for just their pride and their honor, and the Greasers took honor in the way they styled their hair, and the Socs took honor in their money, and because they were different, they fought, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
I think a lot of people spend a large portion of their lives trying to figure out like who they actually are, and so honor is a way for them to define themselves and help answer that question to themselves and satisfy that desire to know. Thank you.
On to the next question.
So my level 2 question from the Outsiders book is, even when you know someone is wrong, and helping them is useless, do you still help them even though they won't acknowledge your help? As in like, sorry, like in the Dally, when Ponyboy and Darius all try to bring Dally on the right side, even though like he knows that he can change, but he doesn't. When he goes to rob that store, and then he pulls out that fake gun on the cops. Even though Derry and Ponyboy and Johnny all try to change him, they knew somewhere deep down that he wouldn't actually change. Was it helpful for them to help him, or was it not?
What do you think?
I think it wasn't. In the book, Dally still let his emotions choose what his actions would be. After Johnny died, him running out the hospital, doing what he did, I think that Johnny could have, Ponyboy could have helped himself even more when Johnny, or like even anyone who's from the real world, if you know someone's not going to better themselves with your help, I personally, I wouldn't try to change my life to help them. I would try to move myself forward than someone else. So do you think that, so?
I think that actually, like, although because Dally ended up dying in the end, it might seem like it wasn't worth it, all that effort. We still did get to see a little bit of Dally's good side in, like, when the fire was going on in the church. He did assist in saving a bunch of kids' lives, along with Bunny and Ponyboy and Johnny. And so, even if it was little things, I still feel like, in retrospect, they would think that it was worth it, because who knows how much earlier Dally might have died, or how much less opportunity he would have gotten if he were to have not gotten that assistance and that simple.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that although it might have not helped him, or like Johnny trying to help him and stuff like that, it might have not helped him personally, but it really did help him understand what the friendship between them was.
Are you talking about Pony and Dally?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think what really plays a role throughout the book is friendship on a couple points. So although it may not have helped him completely personally change wise, I think it was very helpful because it gives us a better understanding, and it gives everyone a better understanding of what the relationship between Billy was throughout the book, and who Ponyboy and Dally and all of them really were.
So I agree with Harish and Josh. So I think that in real life, when you know someone's doing something wrong, if you believe you should do the best you can to help them. Even if they're not going to get better, you should do what's best in your heart, and it's just about being a good person in general. But humans, in general, are also very selfish. So sometimes you might just give up. And although that's what happens a lot, the best thing is just to try to help them get better, even though they might not get better.
Yeah, I feel like even though humans can be selfish, we saw in this book a lot of times that loyalty kind of supersedes that. And so I found this quote that was on page 26. So, you take up for your buddies no matter what they do. When you're in a game, you stick up for the members. If you don't stick up for them, stick together. Make like brothers. It isn't a game anymore. It's a snarling So I really want to discuss the theme of loyalty in this book. So loyalty is really a big factor in the greasers staying together. And so what I want to ask is, how do we make decisions when faced with the conflict between our feelings of loyalty for other people, or a group, or a family, and your ideals of what's wrong or what's right? So this comes up a lot in The Outsiders, notably when Johnny decides to kill Bob. I have a quote here from page 57. So Johnny says, right after killing Bob, and he's talking to Ponyboy, he says, "I had to. they were driving you, Pony. They might have killed you, and they had a blade. They were gonna beat me up. So I'm pretty sure that before this moment, Johnny did not actually think that murder was a good thing, but he felt so. I feel like he felt so loyal to Pony and wanted to make sure that Pony didn't have to go through a similar experience as Johnny. In the best case for Pony, in the worst case, possibly even be killed. So I want to know what you guys think.
Okay, so I think that you should just stay with your ideals about what's wrong and right. So here, I think that what one thinks is what one thinks is right and wrong is one of the most important things for them because it defines themselves and their actions. And here you see how in their quote, you could say that it's loyalty that he does it, but it's also what he thinks is wrong and right. And he thinks that it's better for him to save Ponyboy than to not save him and run away because it goes against his morals. And he thinks that he doesn't want to be blamed for having the chance to save someone's life.
So do you think that this scenario also presents when I talk about like your loyalty versus your ideals, do you think this situation brings up like conflicting ideals itself? Because you might have one ideal saying not to kill anyone, but another ideal saying that you should stick up for.
Yeah, so you can see different views, and one way is loyalty that he wants to save Ponyboy, another way it has his ideals and morals. But there's also other cases where I think that one's ideals is going to be the most important thing because you should do what's right for you.
But what if what's right for you is not right for someone else that you care about, that you're truly loyal to? I found it interesting how you compared loyalty to morality in that case of sense, like one is more important than the other.
Well, what I meant is not that one is more important than the other, but a lot of times they can be conflicting in a scenario where like someone who you feel loyalty towards doesn't act in line with your morals and with your ideals, and so how do you act in that scenario, and how do the characters and the outsiders act, and how do we make decisions in that kind of situation?
How can we in the real world make decisions?
Okay, so I have an author's craft question. I'm going to start with 3 quotes that we have here about, these are short quotes, about Gone with the Wind. So first, Ponyboy on page 77 says, "Nothing gold can stay." And then Johnny says that, "I've been thinking about it, and that poem, that guy wrote it, he meant that you're gold when you're a kid, like green. When you're a kid, everything's new, dawn." And then later, Johnny also says, when he's about to die, he says, "Stay gold, Ponyboy, stay gold." So, like, what does Johnny mean by stay gold, and how does this quote, like, define part of the story? So, okay.
What was your
Okay,
answer?
okay.
What was your
So-
answer to that?
So I think that, okay, whatever. It's from the John Frost thing. So you can see that he's using a simile when he says that you're gold when you're a kid, like green, and then he's comparing being gold to being a kid and being gold, and that like when you're a kid, everything's new and you can like start over. And later Johnny says, "Stay gold, Ponyboy, stay gold." And here Johnny's trying to tell Ponyboy to keep his innocence. In another part of the story, Ponyboy says that nothing gold can stay, and he thinks that Ponyboy is saying that he thinks that people always lose their innocence and they're mature, but the other greasers want Ponyboy to keep his innocence as long as he can.
Yeah, a similar thing was also shown kind of at the end of the book. So after Ponyboy has like gone through everything, kind of descended to the bottom and is kind of coming back up. When he's like hanging out with 2-Bit, and like he gets approached by some searchers, and Ponyboy like breaks the bottle in kind of an action of aggression. 2-Bit's like, "Stay innocent, Ponyboy," and Ponyboy's like thinking to himself like, "These guys always tell me that violence, or they show that violence is kind of the answer, so why do they want me to stay innocent?" But at the same time, he's doing something that none of them would do by like picking up the glass of the bottle that he broke. And so that kind of shows that he's kind of confused, but he still hasn't completely lost his innocence.
Also, well, when Johnny does say gold, I think he completely means like say innocent. Johnny's history with his parents hasn't been that great, so when you say like nothing gold ever stays, I think Johnny interpreted it as like once you get older, the more fun side of you, the more easygoing side of you loses, and you become like a parent or not older. How dare you treats Pony Boy with the iron fist, keeping him down, even though he can show that Derry cares. The idea of the iron fist doesn't sit well with Johnny, and so and saying Pony Boy, don't become the iron fist. Don't become a man who regrets what he's done when he does something. I like when they regretted after he slapped Pony Boy, you know, which led to all the outcomes happened. It shows that Johnny wanted Pony to stay where he's at mentally, not as in don't change. How
maybe stay happy.
Stay happy. Don't change your views on the world. Change how you think of the people. How you think of people, not how you treat people. I'm going to come into it, I think.
Don't change who you are, basically, like altogether.
Or like, as you grow older, your outlook and all should evolve, but your inner core as a person should stay the same. Exactly.
Grant, you
Yeah, I think stay gold would be like, don't give up, never give up your dreams.
Right?
So my question that has to do with Oliver's craft is, in what ways does imagery create emotion in the story? I found a quote that says, "Suddenly it was deathly quiet. We had all frozen. Nobody in my family had ever hit me. Nobody." And with the words, the sentences like with deathly quiet and frozen, it really creates like an image in the head and an emotion, because like it creates kind of a darker emotion and like an uncomfortable, disturbing kind of vibe to it. So how do you guys think that imagery throughout the story creates emotion?
To link back to your quote, what you said, the just deaf silence conveys almost a feeling that can't be stated in words, because it shows how everyone is just completely stunned. It is an act that just unforeseeable, almost inconceivable even. You're going to say something? I wasn't.
Yeah, I completely agree with Seth. His take on it, that in the book, instead of showing emotion with the greasers, they don't show emotion. The author shows the emotion of the book, the imagery of the book. When he talks about, She. So when she shows the imagery to the book as like it was deadly quiet, it wouldn't said right in the book when like everyone was shocked, or the crowd like it wouldn't make sense. But when you just like a deathly freeze or whatever the call was, I forget, sorry.
It was deathly quiet.
Deathly quiet. It showed like everyone like was stunned, and like no one knew what to do because no one had ever been in a situation like that.
Like everyone was stunned to a level that they couldn't even believe that they were stunned.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't believe this had just happened.
Remember that my question was, in what ways does imagery create emotion in the story?
That's where it comes from. The emotion doesn't come from the characters; it comes from the imagery. Because only time you've ever in the book a character shows the emotion is Sherry walking with Ponyboy. You can see like a connection there with the emotions. That's the only time, because you can actually like consider Sherry what we consider a regular person with feelings, not a greaser, not a soul. She's just a regular person who treats everyone the same and actually has like can show emotion unlike the associates or the greasers.
I disagree with that. And in the conventional sense that yes, she does show emotions, but she shows like very shallow emotions like anger, happiness, and so on, sadness. But other characters show emotion in more of a more subtle way. Linking back to that quote of deathly silent, it aids in the emotion of letting the reader understand the emotion of shock and maybe even imply angst or an upsetting feeling in the room that the act was unacceptable.
So I agree with Seth. So I think that the author is showing us in subtle ways what the characters and feeling throughout the story, but she's letting us understand what's happening, but she's letting us take it further in our own imagination so that we can see what's happening in the story. And also, the author progresses the story a lot through the way the characters are talking and their way they eyes are, the way they look when they're talking, when she describes it then. And yeah.
But I agree with Alex. I think that the emotion comes from the character's description, like how Alex said, the eyes and how they talk. And if the author says he's crazy or angry, then it kind of shows that he'll be upset, the emotion. And to your quote, what was it again?
Suddenly it was deathly quiet. We had all frozen. Nobody in my family had ever hit me.
Right, that would show shock, like everybody else said. You will kind of make the path yourself instead of actually just giving out the free emotion. You would actually create it in the reader's minds.
Another scene that I distinctly remember as doing a good job of conveying this is Dali's death. So in terms of like when he comes running in and then pulls out the gun, and the emotion is really conveyed, like, because it's told from the point of view of like Ponyboy and the other greasers who are watching it all happen. And Ponyboy has been told that this is an empty gun, and the imagery really like helps bring the tension in the moment. And there's kind of like a premonition on the point of these greasers because they know what's going to happen. When you pull a gun out in front of the police, they're most likely not going to act in a friendly way. And so they knew he was bluffing it, and the author did a great job of conveying that he knew that it was coming to, and he did it like consciously.
Well, yeah, I agree. The emotion actually kind of
Continue.
the emotion kind of built up, after Dali's death. Before that, they explained how Dali actually felt about Johnny's death, and it is actually before even Johnny died. All this stress built up in his body from his parents dying, and actually put so much stress on him. As you go along with the story, it put emotion, like a strong feeling throughout the story, and it builds, and then at the end it releases. So I think that was something that I take for granted, but I think it would actually, the Dali's death was really emotional, probably the most emotional part of the whole story. So, yeah.
Well, that's all we have time for today.
He's serious.
Sit down. Sit down.
You shouldn't do that. He did.
Does anyone else want to do the outro? Go, Jake.
Jake, do it.
Jake, you have to get up and walk towards the camera.
Three,
Do it.
2, 1.
Walk up.
Happy Halloween!
I was distracting you. So walk up and thank you so much.
Thank you so
3,
much.
2, 1.
That's all the time we have for today.
We should take that actually as our ending.
Just a
we were just doing history.
We need to like
walk up
roll
to
the credits or like.
I need to do something.
You want me to do it?
Okay, so you
It was so fun having you guys with us today.
Seth got it.
3, 2, 1. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you, sir, very much for joining us.
Goodbye.
In our darkest moments, you would always be looking out for his family.
Dali was like the person who you could like sometimes, Dahlia was like the person you could sometimes rely on to be there, even if he were injured like he was here. He was sort of, how do I say this? Like very compassionate in a strange way. Like he was, like you were saying, able to get to the fight, which was selfless, but nonetheless, he wanted to help his brotherhood and his family most of all. I felt like he was referring to the brotherhood more as his family than just a group of people that he discovered off the street. Like he knew these people, he wanted to help these people.
That's something he kind of shared with Johnny as well, because Dally didn't even really have a family, and Johnny, his family completely neglected him. And so, going back to this question, I think,
How does the theme of neediness create a better understanding of the characters? My personal input is this, is it gives us a more personal look at the character's environment and how they deal with changes of morals and the meaning throughout the book. And I want to hear you guys' opinions too. So,
I thought it was interesting how each person's need showed their true selves to everyone, such as within the Greaser family. What Ponyboy needed throughout the book was support from Dally to help hide himself and Johnny. He needed emotional support from his whole family just to get his sense of self. He physically needed support so he wouldn't get beat up by the Socs. And even Derry needed family so he could hang on to his sense of self.
Yeah, so Josh had a quote. It was, "I was beginning to relax and wonder if running away was such a great idea. I was sleepy and freezing to death, and I wanted to be home in bed, safe and warm under the covers, with Soda's arm across me." This was what Ponyboy said. You can see here that Ponyboy needed stuff in order to feel at himself, and you can see how the Greasers weren't just hard on the out. Okay, I forgot. Go. You think you said?
yeah, so really what this kind of showed is like the Greasers tried to act like really tough guys who don't really need support or anything from like external sources, who can really like just do it themselves.
Okay.
And even Dally was supposed to be the hardened, tough kid from New York who had pretty much dealt with everything and seen everything in his life. And even he needed the support of the other Greasers, and especially Johnny, as someone who looked up to him in order to feel confident with himself and at least go as far as he did before he ended up submitting himself.